The insufferable noble lady has been completely brought to heel by Derek. Now she not only hangs on his every word, but has shed her old arrogance and become genuinely humble and polite. When they first met, she deliberately held out her foot and demanded he kiss it, just to humiliate him. But in the next instant, Derek slapped her off her feet. What no one expected was that she didn't get angry at all. Instead, she developed complicated feelings for him, because Derek is not only strikingly handsome, but also possesses extraordinary talent for magic. And in the eyes of the nobility, that is the very mark of refinement, so they specifically hired him to be the tutor for this insufferable young lady. Yet the moment they met, she demanded he kiss her feet. Derek didn't put up with it. He sent her to the floor with a single slap. Little did she know that Derek had grown up in the slums, and knew all too well that if you don't fight back, everything, including food, gets taken from you. Back in the slums, there was a strange, ill-tempered old man. He boasted everywhere that he was a great mage, though he was only a one-star mage, but thanks to him Derek learned magic. His reason for teaching Derek was simple: he just felt that a mage like himself needed a follower. And soon, a year had passed. The old man was astonished to discover that Derek had already grasped the flow of mana. Derek's eyes snapped open, and a brilliant blue mana sword shot forward and struck a distant tree dead center. The old man stared in disbelief. He never imagined Derek would reach his level in just 1 year. That night, the old man got completely drunk and said that some noble prodigies became 3-star mages by adulthood, a realm that people of their lowly birth could never reach in a lifetime. Because beyond their natural talent, the nobility had nearly monopolized the art of magic. No matter how hard a commoner worked, bloodline would always win in the end. That night felt unusually long, and the old man, who was always full of boasts, grew deeply quiet. When Derek returned home the next day, he found the old man had breathed his last. His body was covered in bruises. At first, Derek assumed he had gotten into a fight with someone. It was only later that Derek heard the truth. The old man had been caught trying to steal a 2-star spellbook, and that was what led to his end. Yet no one could make sense of it. Why would an old man with no ambition steal a 2-star spellbook he could never use? The old man had always stressed the importance of bloodline, but Derek had crossed into this world with a system to back him up. In the 4 years following the old man's death, Derek became the youngest mercenary in the area. During that time, a noble with the power of a 3-star mage took him under her wing, even accepting him as her disciple and teaching him to use magic. This kid was born with an enormous reserve of mana, and thanks to his extensive combat experience, his control over his own mana is remarkably steady. Then Katya suddenly sensed a violent surge of mana radiating from Derek. The mercenaries in the tavern heard a loud bang and assumed they were under attack, immediately going on high alert. Derek stared at his own hands in shock. Had he just reached 2-star mage? Before he could think it through, Katya grabbed him and pulled him outside, warning him not to say a word. When they stepped out, they found mercenaries everywhere, searching the area. They didn't stop until they reached a deserted back alley. Katya's face was filled with worry as she warned him. The nobility are extremely sensitive about their privileges. Magic is the greatest privilege of all in their eyes, and what you just used was a 2-star level psychic magic. If other nobles find out that someone your age has already become a 2-star mage, they won't let it go easily. A year later, Katya left as well. The patriarch of an elven clan had invited her to serve as his daughter's private tutor. It was a clan respected even by the Grand Dukes of the kingdom, so it was an offer Katya simply couldn't refuse. Before she left, she gave Derek a 2-star spellbook. By now, Derek's magical knowledge was comprehensive enough to handle any crisis. Later, the tavern owner told Derek he had found a lucrative gig for him. This job comes from Duke Dupland himself. You understand what that means. But Derek was genuinely puzzled. Why would a family that powerful hire someone like them? Are you an idiot? Is that what we should be worried about right now? That's House Dupland. They're wealthier than most kingdoms. If we can build a connection with them through this job, we could get a steady stream of work down the line. What exactly do they want us to do? Nothing too special, just clear out a few monsters at the border of the Duke's territory. But the more Derek heard, the more something felt off. A family like House Dupland surely had powerful knights and mages at their disposal. Why would they hire ordinary mercenaries to clear out monsters? He turned to leave and was ready to walk away from the job, but the tavern owner panicked. They specifically said they need a mage. That's why I called you. That only made Derek more confused. If it was just clearing a few monsters, why did it have to be a mage? Either way, he had no interest in getting tangled up in unnecessary trouble. Then the owner tossed something over, and Derek caught it without thinking. Are you sure you want to turn this down? That gold coin isn't the fee, it's a deposit. There's a lot more waiting for you when the job's done. Derek stared at the coin for a long moment, then agreed. It was too much money to walk away from. The owner quickly took him to meet the clients. However, the coordinator on the side felt Derek was too young to fill the role of mage this job required. It wasn't until the mysterious cloaked woman spoke up that he backed down. They soon set out for Duke Dupland's territory to hunt magical beasts. Most of them turned out to be nothing more than weak goblins. Derek cleared them all out in no time. The 3 people watching were stunned. They hadn't expected him to wipe out that many goblins so quickly, and the mysterious woman was clearly very satisfied. When Derek returned to the tavern, his fellow mercenary parents stormed up to him and let him have it. No matter how lowly we commoners are, we can't become lapdogs of the nobility. Do you even know how much the deposit for this job was? How much did they pay this guy to throw away his dignity and side with the nobles? The owner silently held up one finger. What? 1 silver coin? The owner shook his head with a smug grin. Perrin's eyes lit up instantly. You mean 1 gold coin? She didn't stop drinking until she was dead drunk, muttering that she wanted a job like that too. The owner then asked Derek how the job was going. Derek said nothing much had happened. He had just killed a few goblins, and figured it would be wrapped up soon. But something about those people was strange. For one thing, the maid who claimed to be a dishwasher had remarkably smooth hands, clearly not someone used to hard labor. And the coordinator, despite clearly holding a position of authority, kept deferring to the mysterious woman. The owner then said seriously, "We're mercenaries. We don't dig into the hidden identities of our clients. Our job is to complete the task and collect the pay. That's all." Derek didn't argue. The man had a point. Out in the wild, survival came first. Everything else was secondary. The next day, Derek cleared out all the magical beasts in the area, and received 2 gold coins as the final payment. "Kid, I'm very impressed with your performance. I wonder if you'd be willing to take on one more request. This one is safe, and the reward is 15 gold coins." Derek and the owner both froze. They both realized the monster clearing job had been a test all along. This new request was the real goal. Before long, they arrived at the estate of House Duplan. "Before we go in, allow me to introduce myself properly. I am actually the head steward of House Duplan. I apologize for concealing my identity earlier." The owner immediately bowed. Someone of that standing was not someone he could afford to offend. Derek was taken aback as well. He had already sensed these people were no ordinary clients, but their true identities turned out to be even more impressive than he had imagined. Then the mysterious woman slowly removed her cloak. "I am Eileen Duplan, the eldest daughter of this house. I would like to appoint you as the magic tutor for my younger sister, Tira." At that moment, the second son of House Duplan stormed into his father's study. "Reggae, how many times do I have to tell you? Composure and calm are what bring honor to this family." "Father, the one who needs to calm down is not me, it's Tira. She's getting worse and worse. She's even started hitting my maids. Just last month, more than 10 servants quit because of her. If this keeps up, she'll throw the entire household into chaos." Varian, the eldest son, saw things were going sideways and stepped in to intervene. "That's enough, Reggie. Father and I are discussing something important. Father will handle what you've said in his own way." But Reg clearly wasn't ready to let it go. "It's time we cut Tira loose. We still have Eileen, don't we? I already had the head steward look into a convent. It would be better for everyone, for Tira and for the family." At those words, the Duke suddenly reached out and grabbed Reggie by the head, and slammed it down onto the desk. "Let me remind you one last time, this is not your decision to make." By now, Derek had already entered the castle under Eileen's guidance. He could sense immediately that something was off about the atmosphere, and everything seemed to point back to the student he was about to teach, Tira. Soon, Derek and Eileen arrived at the Duke's study. "Father, this is the mage I brought from Abestein. He will be responsible for teaching Tira." The Duke barely looked up from his work, acknowledging it as though it were of little importance. But just as they were about to leave, he suddenly called Derek back and asked to speak with him alone. "You're only 16. Can you actually handle magic to any meaningful degree?" Derek told him he could use 1-star magic. The Duke looked at him steadily and said, "There's no need to lie to me. Excessive modesty is not a virtue." Derek didn't try to argue. He simply offered an apology. After all, as a 5-star mage, the Duke had clearly seen right through him. Derek then made his way to Tira's room. When she heard him coming, she didn't turn around. She just told him to come closer. As Derek slowly walked toward her, the corner of her mouth curled into a cold smile. Then a bucket of water was hurled straight into his face. Tira turned around with a look of arrogant satisfaction. "I thought a sewer rat had wandered in. So you're the mercenary the head steward mentioned? You think someone of your lowly standing has any right to be my teacher?" She grabbed a stool and stepped up onto it. She noticed that Derek's gaze never wavered, calm and completely unbothered. That only made her expression darken further. So she kicked him square in the chest from her elevated perch. Then she pulled off her shoe and thrust her foot toward him. "A commoner like you is only fit to lick my feet." In the next instant, Derek slapped her straight to the ground. She touched her stinging cheek in disbelief. It simply hadn't occurred to her that anyone in the world would dare strike her face. "Don't make me say it twice. Get up." After a long, stunned pause, she shot to her feet. "Do you have any idea who I am? I'm the daughter of Duke Duplan. How dare you hit me?" Before she could finish, she was slapped again. Tira let out a furious shriek. The head steward rushed over with the maids at the sound. "Do you know what you've just done? You dared to lay a hand on the second young lady? When the Duke hears of this, you're finished." But Derek calmly reached into his coat and produced a scroll. "His Grace has granted me full authority. For the duration of Tira's education, I may handle her however I see fit." The head steward had nothing more to say. The document was unmistakably in the Duke's own hand, and Tira stood there, completely floored. She was expected to take orders from this common nobody? Not long after, Varian came storming over after learning his sister had been struck. "You shameless mercenary! Who gave you the nerve to lay a hand on my dear sister?" Faced with the eldest son of House Duplan, Derek replied coolly, "His Grace permitted it." Regje, standing nearby, quickly stepped in to hold Varian back, but Varian clearly wasn't ready to let it go. He demanded Derek follow him somewhere. "Not bad, kid. Tira definitely needed a good smack, but don't worry too much. Varian isn't as reckless as he looks." Derek followed Varian to a peculiar room. It was filled with dolls and oil paintings. This was Tira's old room. Ever since she moved out of the main house, I've kept it exactly as it was. I was out of line just now. I want to apologize for that. Derek told him not to worry about it, but asked why Varian had brought him here. Varian said he wanted to show that Tira wasn't a bad person at heart. She had just become obsessively fixated on magic at some point. Once she failed to learn it, her temper grew worse and worse, until she was eventually driven out of the main house and confined to a nearby building. "I'm begging you, please help Tira. If you don't, she'll be sent to a convent and cut off from the family entirely." Derek told him that Tira hadn't given up on learning magic at all. Every book in that room was filled with notes about magic. That night, Derek slipped quietly into Tira's room and dumped a bucket of cold water over her. "This is no time to be sleeping. Now that you're awake, come with me." Without giving her a chance to object, he dragged her out of bed. They soon arrived in the middle of nowhere. "What are you, insane? Why did you drag me all the way out here?" "Relax. I'm not here to teach you magic. I just want to beat some sense into this self-important little noble." Tira's stomach dropped. This place was too isolated. If he actually tried something, there was no one around to stop him. "Your family is going to cast you out and send you to a convent. No matter what I do to you out here, no one will believe a word you say. Even if something truly irreversible happens, I can just run and disappear. House Duplan probably won't bother chasing me down. After all, I'll have done them a favor." Tira panicked and bolted toward the forest. "This lunatic is going to kill me. If I can get into the trees, I can lose him and make it back to the estate." But before she could get far, she felt a wave of scorching heat at her back. She looked, and saw a fireball condensed in Derek's hand. Tira's eyes went wide with shock. Fireball was a 2-star spell. He was around her age. How could he possibly be a 2-star mage? The fireball rocketed toward her. She threw herself to the ground to dodge it, and watched it detonate in a burst of flame just a short distance away. She threw every thought aside and focused on one thing, getting away from this maniac. Then suddenly she tripped over a root, and fell. Before she could recover from the pain, a magic arrow embedded itself in the ground right in front of her. Impressive speed for someone who's been cooped up in a room all day. Tira had no time to argue. She scrambled deeper into the forest. Derek looked at the trees ahead and felt a strange sense of familiarity. He had seen this forest in her paintings. It must have been a place she ran to since she was small. It was possible that even she hadn't realized it. She had sensed mana flowing through the forest and channeled it onto the canvas. Before he could think further, a sharp instinct kicked in. Tira hadn't fled at all. She had been hiding, waiting for a chance to strike. But Derek simply drew his sword and flicked it. The stone in her hand split clean in two. "I'll give you credit. You're smart. You knew you couldn't outrun me, so you went for a counterattack. But you've underestimated the gap between us. You don't even have the strength left to run." "Any last words?" Tira let out a cold laugh. "You think I'm going to grovel and beg for your forgiveness? If you're going to do it, then do it. Why are you so obsessed with bloodline? So fixated on magic?" At those words, Tira froze. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow with loss and bitter frustration. "What do I have left without my bloodline? Every noble can use magic, so why am I the only one who can't? No matter how hard I try, it's never enough. And if even that noble blood is stripped away from me, I'll have nothing at all." After hearing her out, Derek raised his sword. As the blade swung down, Tira squeezed her eyes shut in terror. But to her shock, she was unharmed. A wall of ice had formed all around her and stopped the blade. She stared at her own hands in stunned disbelief. "Did I just use magic?" Derek stepped back and bowed his head in apology. "That isn't quite magic yet. It's just mana manifestation, but you did it." At those words, the weight that had been crushing Tira's chest finally lifted. She broke down and sobbed without holding anything back. Only after she had cried herself out did Derek begin to explain. Magic can be broadly divided into two schools, the Wild Path and the Order Path. At their core, both schools are fundamentally the same, but the way one understands and masters them is worlds apart. You were always meant to learn through the Wild Path. Forcing yourself through the Order Path, the Noble's Way, was only ever going to hold you back. Tira asked Derek how he knew she belonged to the Wild Path. He told her he had seen her paintings, and he could feel mana flowing through nature in every stroke. Derek then wrapped up the wound on her ankle. "You should be able to walk normally now." Then Tira called out to stop him. Her face flushed with something unfamiliar, and she stumbled over the words as she apologized to him. The next day, Tira tried to use magic and failed, but she had taken the first step. All she had to do now was follow Derek and learn seriously. Just as she opened her door to go find him, she startled the maid standing outside. In the chaos, the maid accidentally splashed water all over Tira's dress. The maid trembled and apologized over and over again, because she knew all too well that the old Tira would never let something like this go without consequences. But to her surprise, Tira simply shrugged it off, and told her to be more careful next time. The maid stood there wondering if she had heard wrong. "That's strange. What happened to her? She just walked away without hitting me?" Meanwhile, Derek was enjoying a sound sleep when a furious pounding erupted at his door. He opened it to find Tira standing there with her hands on her hips. "Teach me how to work with manifested mana. I tried on my own and got nowhere." In response, Derek slammed the door in her face. "Come back this afternoon. You wore me out last night." The head steward nearby turned pale. What exactly happened last night? When Derek finally opened the door again, Tira was sitting on the bed with her knees pulled to her chest, pouting. He told her sulking wouldn't get her anywhere. It was time to study. Tira puffed up indignantly and insisted she was not pouting, she was angry. But the moment her eyes met Derek's, something stirred in her chest, a strange, instinctive unease. "Fine, I was pouting. Just because you've achieved mana manifestation doesn't mean you can use it freely. Push too hard, and it'll work against you." Tira climbed out of bed with a reluctant expression. "Fine, Uptight magic teacher, you're right. If you think I'm uptight, I can always teach you the same way I did that night in the forest. Tira shuddered involuntarily. She quickly insisted that there was really no need for that, and that being a little uptight was actually quite admirable. Derek then began guiding Tira through the practice of mana manifestation. Once she was comfortable enough with it, she would be able to pick up basic spells before long, and with the blood of House Duplan in her veins, her natural talent far surpassed that of an ordinary person. Hearing Derek praise her, Tira's ears perked up with delight, and a girlish flush crept across her face. So you're saying I'm talented? Absolutely. The fact that you formed an ice wall the moment your mana manifested that night is proof enough of your remarkable talent. Tira twirled a strand of hair shyly and pressed on. So that means I'm a genius, right? Outside the window, Reggae had been watching the whole exchange. His expression was anything but pleasant. He went to see their father, with Varian in tow. I hear Tira has achieved mana manifestation. That's a genuine relief. Father, I don't think a small breakthrough like this should change the plan to send her to the convent. Enough, Reg. Tira worked incredibly hard to get here. If you can't bring yourself to praise her, that's one thing. But why would you kick her while she's down? Reggie didn't respond to that. He pressed on. You both remember what she did before, don't you? Can a single small step forward erase all the harm she's caused? At that, the Duke went quiet and said nothing for a long while. Meanwhile, Derek couldn't help but be relieved that Tira had finally started taking things seriously. But now she was clinging to him at nearly every hour of the day, and there was simply no escaping her. Even when he slipped out to the middle of nowhere, she would track him down. Why do you keep hiding from me? Starting now, you are to stay within my sight at all times. Otherwise, I'll go to my father and tell him you've been slacking off and not teaching me properly. Before long, Varian sought Derek out and asked how Tira had been doing lately. Derek told him she had made tremendous progress, and becoming a one-star mage was only a matter of time. Varian visibly relaxed at that. By the way, a word of warning, my mother is returning next week. She has always been very particular about the divide between nobles and commoners. If she finds out you're Tira's magic tutor, she will likely make things difficult for you. Noted. Is that the only reason you came to find me? At that, Varian went quiet. Clearly that hadn't been his real reason. I am the next head of House Duplan. It would be so much easier if everyone in this family thought and valued the same things, but they don't. As Varian droned on, Derek cut him off and asked him to just get to the point. Varian froze mid-sentence. When he turned around, there were actual tears in the corners of his eyes. Tira stopped playing with me when she grew up. As her older brother, that really breaks my heart. Derek stared at this man who was absolutely obsessed with his little sister, completely at a loss for words. He had taken Varian for someone serious and composed. Today had been quite the revelation. Please, I'm begging you, help me get Tira to warm up to me again, the way she did when we were little. Why would I do that? Because Tira follows you around all day. She obviously thinks highly of you. Then Varian reached into his coat and pulled out a strangely shaped doll. I made this myself. Doesn't it look exactly like Tira? Can you feel the love I have for her as her brother? After a long silence, Derek finally said, Varian, are you absolutely sure you're not cursing her with that thing? Not long after, Tira's mother summoned Derek. I've been told a highly capable magic tutor has been found. Which family do you come from? I would like to express my gratitude to them. I don't belong to any family. I'm simply a commoner. The moment those words left his mouth, her face flooded with shock and fury. She immediately stormed off to confront Duke Duplan. That person is nothing but a common nobody. Why is he Tira's teacher? Tira is our most beloved daughter. The Duke sighed and explained that he didn't make a habit of appointing commoners either, but every mage of noble birth had refused to teach Tira. On top of that, it was Eileen who recommended him. Aside from his background, he is a truly exceptional tutor. That still isn't acceptable. Having a commoner as Tira's tutor will make her a laughingstock among high society. At that moment, Reg walked in. If that commoner truly has the qualities required, his background need not be such an issue. Father, I'd like to put him to the test. Allow me to face him in a magic duel. That's enough, Reggae. You are not his match. He is a true mage, and a formidable one at that. Reggae said nothing for a long moment. He hadn't expected his father to speak of that commoner's ability with such high regard. In that case, I'll test Tira instead. If he's truly a skilled magic tutor, then Tira must have made real progress under him. Let me be the one to verify his results. The Duke considered it for a moment, then agreed. When Varian heard the news, he immediately tracked down Reggae and demanded to know what he was thinking. Do you actually believe Tira has changed? I haven't forgotten a single thing she's done. Even so, she's our sister. As her family, it's our duty to protect her. But Reg flared up. That's exactly why Tira ended up the way she did. No matter what she does, you all forgive her without question. If she's allowed to enter high society like this, House Duplan is truly finished. Meanwhile, Tira had heard the news and came rushing to find Derek. She thrust the duel notice into his hands. If I lose this magic duel, you'll be dismissed. I've heard Reggae is already an experienced one-star mage. Winning won't be easy. Is that all you wanted to say? That after I lose, you'll never see me again? The week passed, and the day of the duel arrived. The Duke noticed that Derek showed no sign of nerves. He carried himself with complete confidence. Remarkable composure under these circumstances. He is clearly not a talent this house should let go. At that moment, Reggae stormed onto the dueling platform. Tira, today I will break you completely and make you pay for everything you've done. Tira stepped up to meet him without a trace of fear. A week ago, After Tira had told Derek about the duel, Derek had told her that her magical training was already on the right track. Even if she lost and he was dismissed, it wouldn't set her back that much. But Tira burst into tears. I know I'm not a good student, but no matter what, I want to keep learning from you. I don't want anyone else as my teacher. Derek was quiet for a long moment before he spoke. I don't know the rules of noble duels, but I can teach you how to win. Tell me again, do you really want to win? At that, Tira's mind drifted back to those days when she couldn't learn magic. The sneers, the mockery, the cutting remarks from everyone around her. Her gaze hardened with resolve. Yes, I want to win, no matter the cost. The head steward announced the rules. Whoever triggered the other's protective barrier array first would win. It was a compact magic artifact worn on the body, designed to nullify incoming magic when the wearer took a serious hit. Derek noted inwardly that noble duels were extravagant affairs. These magic artifacts were extraordinarily expensive, and each one only lasted 10 minutes. On the platform, Regier chanted a complex incantation, and a mass of pale blue mana condensed in his hand. With a sweep of his arm, a wind blade formed and sliced straight toward Tira. But faced with that powerful magic, Tira didn't flinch. She simply stepped to the side and let it pass. Reg felt the sting of humiliation and redirected the wind blade, driving it at her again. This time, an ice wall rose up and blocked it. She didn't even use a proper spell. She just manifested raw mana and stopped my wind blade with it. But if she thinks a trick like that is enough to win, she's dreaming. Mana orbs condensed in his hands in an instant. Faced with that overwhelming firepower, Tira felt no fear. She and Derek had already worked out a plan. A mercenary's way of fighting is nothing like a noble's. Mercenaries don't treat fairness as a virtue. The only goal is victory. If you want to win, you win by any means necessary. So throughout the fight, Tira used every trick available to dodge and evade, wearing down Reggae's mana reserves. Then, without warning, a wind blade came screaming at her from behind. A blast rang out, and the dueling platform was swallowed in a cloud of smoke and dust. In the stands, the Duchess cried out in alarm, and shouted at the head steward, "Can't you see Tira is hurt? Stop the duel now!" But Duke Duplan remained perfectly calm. "Sit down, the duel isn't over. Why are you stopping me?" Tira was clearly hit by Reggae's magic just now. The Duke simply pointed out that her protective barrier array had not been triggered. He then shifted his gaze toward where Derek was standing. He didn't even blink just now. Did he see that coming all along? On the platform, as the smoke began to clear, Reggie scanned the area, but Tira was nowhere to be found. Then he heard a faint sound from below. Before he could react, an ice spike shot up from underneath. He barely managed to throw himself out of the way in time. She's hiding under the platform. Leaving the platform should count as a loss. But the head steward shook his head. There was no rule against it, simply because no one in a noble duel had ever thought to pull a trick like this. From that point on,